The massive alien warship Zenith Prime floated in the darkness of space like a metal city. Inside its main command center, creatures from different worlds celebrated their victory. Admiral Kethvar stood at the center of it all, his reptilian skin gleaming under the bright lights. His sharp yellow eyes looked at the battle reports with satisfaction. "Excellent work," Kethvar said to his officers. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. "The human outpost has been destroyed completely. They will think twice before expanding into our territory again." General Vexthal clicked her mandibles together in what passed for laughter among her insect-like species. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she studied the tactical displays. The humans fought bravely for primitives, but they were no match for our combined fleets. 800 ships against their pathetic defenses. Around the command center, alien officers from a dozen different species shared drinks and congratulated each other. The Sauroch Empire and the Hive Collective had worked together perfectly. Their attack on the human space stations had been swift and brutal. Intelligence reports said it was just a minor military outpost on the edge of human space. "The humans have been getting too bold," said Commander Zareth, a blue-skinned Sithari with large black eyes. "They build colonies wherever they want. They ignore our warnings about restricted space. This attack will teach them to respect the established powers of the galaxy." Kethvar nodded his massive head. The humans were newcomers to galactic politics. They had only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. Most alien civilizations had been exploring space for thousands of years. The humans needed to learn their place. "Sir," called out the communications officer, a nervous Veltrin with tentacles instead of arms. "Long-range sensors are detecting ships approaching our position." "How many?" Kethvar asked, not bothering to look up from his victory reports. "Approximately 50 vessels, Admiral. They appear to be human design." Kethvar laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a cliff. 50 ships? They must be coming to surrender, or perhaps to negotiate for the return of their survivors. General Vexthal's antennae twitched with amusement. "Shall we destroy them as well? It would save time." "No," Kethvar said, waving a clawed hand dismissively. "Let them approach. We will accept their surrender and send them home with a message for their leaders. The galaxy must see that we are reasonable rulers." The communications officer worked at his station for several minutes. His tentacles moved rapidly over the controls as he tried to establish contact with the approaching human fleet. Finally, he looked up with confusion on his alien features. "Admiral, the humans are responding to our hail, but the signal is not coming from a captain or fleet commander." "Then who is it?" Kethvar demanded. "According to their transmission, it is someone called General Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force." Kethvar frowned. In most galactic civilizations, generals commanded ground forces while admirals controlled space fleets. The humans seemed to organize their military differently. "Put him through." The main display screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human warship. The first thing that struck the alien commanders was how quiet it was. No celebration, no excited chatter. The humans moved with calm precision at their stations. Everything was focused and efficient. Then they saw the human general himself. Jake Morrison appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with gray hair, and lines on his face that spoke of years of hard decisions. His eyes were the color of winter storms, cold and gray. He wore a simple military uniform without decoration or ceremony. Morrison looked directly at Kethvar through the screen. He did not speak immediately. The silence stretched for long seconds while the human studied the alien commanders. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and controlled. "You attacked our home." The simple statement hung in the air like a physical thing. Kethvar felt a moment of confusion. Home. They had attacked a minor outpost, not the human homeworld. Intelligence clearly showed it was just a collection of space stations and asteroid bases on the frontier. "General Morrison," Kethvar said, putting on his most diplomatic tone, "we struck a military installation that was violating territorial agreements. This was a measured response to human aggression in contested space. We are prepared to discuss terms for your surrender." Morrison continued to stare at them with those cold gray eyes. Behind him, his crew worked silently at their stations. No one spoke. No one made unnecessary noise. It was like watching a machine built for war. "You don't understand," Morrison said finally. His voice never changed tone. It remained flat and emotionless. "Every human settlement, every station, every ship, they're all home to us. You attacked our people. You killed our families. Children were on those stations." General Vexthal's compound eyes shifted as she processed this information. "General, you must understand the strategic situation. Your species has been expanding too rapidly. The established powers of the galaxy require children," Morrison repeated, cutting her off. "Families. People who never held a weapon in their lives." The tactical officer at Kethvar's side suddenly looked up from his station with alarm. "Admiral, we're detecting more contacts. The human fleet is larger than we initially calculated." "How much larger?" Kethvar asked, though something cold was beginning to form in his stomach. "We now count 100 ships, sir." "No, wait. 200. The numbers keep climbing." On the screen, Morrison had not moved. He continued to watch them with those terrible, calm eyes. "You wanted to send a message," he said quietly. "You wanted to show the humans their place in the galaxy. You succeeded." The communications officer's tentacles were shaking as he worked his controls. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. It's like the asteroids themselves are powering up weapons." Morrison finally moved, leaning slightly forward in his command chair. "Now you're going to learn what humans do when someone threatens our home." The screen went dark. In the sudden silence of the alien command center, alarms began to sound. Tactical displays lit up with so many new contacts that the computers struggled to process them all. What had appeared to be empty space was suddenly full of human warships. Admiral Kethvar stared at the displays in growing horror. This was not 50 ships coming to surrender. This was not even 200 ships seeking revenge. This was something the galaxy had never seen before. An entire human war fleet emerging from hiding like hunters revealing themselves to their prey. "How many ships?" he whispered. The tactical officer's voice cracked as he gave his report. "Unknown. Sir, our computers cannot get an accurate count. Estimate over 1,000 vessels." General Vexthal's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. "That's impossible. Our intelligence said the humans only had a few hundred ships total." But as they watched their screens, more and more human contacts appeared. Ships decloaked from behind asteroids. Others powered up from what had seemed like dead space. Still, others emerged from the shadow of the system's moon. The humans had not come to surrender. They had come to war. And they had brought everything they had. Admiral Kethvar tried to make sense of what his sensors were showing him. The numbers kept climbing. 300 human ships, 400, 500. His tactical officers worked frantically at their stations, but the computers could barely keep up with all the new contacts appearing on their screens. "This has to be a mistake," General Vexthal said, her voice tight with worry. "Our intelligence networks are the best in the galaxy. The humans cannot have this many warships." But the evidence was right there in front of them. Ships were appearing, from everywhere. Some had been hiding behind asteroids for who knows how long. Others had been drifting in space with their power systems shut down, looking like space debris. Still others were emerging from what the aliens had thought was empty space. "Sir," the communications officer called out, his tentacles shaking. "We're receiving a transmission from Fleet Admiral Lisa Carter. She's commanding something called the Third Fleet." Kethvar felt his blood run cold. Third Fleet meant there were at least 2 others, maybe more. How many fleets did the humans have? "Put her through," he ordered. A new face appeared on their screen. Admiral Carter was a human woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Unlike Morrison's calm stillness, she radiated energy and purpose. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship buzzed with activity as human officers prepared for battle. "Admiral Kethvar," Carter said, her voice crisp and professional. "I am Fleet Admiral Carter of the Terran Defense Force. You are completely surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender." Surrounded. Kethvar laughed, but the sound was forced and hollow. You have perhaps 500 ships. We have 800 vessels from the combined fleets of 2 galactic powers. Carter's expression did not change. Admiral, our sensors show you have 732 operational vessels. We know exactly how many ships you brought to this system. We've been tracking your fleet movements for 3 weeks. The reptilian admiral felt the first real stab of fear. 3 weeks? The humans had known about their attack plan for 3 weeks? That's impossible, he said. Our operation was classified at the highest levels. Commander Ryan Hughes, Carter, said, speaking to someone off-screen. Show them what we found in their communication networks. A new voice came over the channel, young and confident. Admiral Kethvar, this is Commander Hughes. For the past month, we've been reading your encrypted messages. We know about your supply lines, your fleet positions, and your battle plans. We even know what you had for breakfast this morning. General Vexthal's mandibles clicked together, rapidly. You're bluffing. No one can break Sarok military encryption. Your breakfast was fermented creche eggs with bloodfruit juice, Hughes said calmly. You complained to your aide that the eggs were too salty. The insect general's compound eyes went wide. She had indeed complained about salty eggs that morning. But she had done so in her private quarters, speaking to her personal aide in their most secure language. How? She whispered. Morrison's face reappeared on the main screen. Behind him, his crew continued their quiet, efficient work. You wanted to know what kind of species we are, he said. You attacked our people to find out. Now you're getting your answer. General Morrison, Kethvar said, trying to regain control of the situation. Let us discuss this reasonably. Yes, we underestimated your capabilities, but surely we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone. Can we bring back the dead? Morrison asked quietly. Can we restore the families you destroyed? Can we rebuild the homes you turned to ash and metal? The human general's voice never rose above a conversational tone, but somehow that made his words more frightening than any scream of rage would have been. The attack was a strategic necessity, Vexthal said desperately. Human expansion was threatening the balance of power in this sector. We had to establish boundaries. Boundaries, Morrison repeated. You established boundaries by killing children. Another voice came over the communication channel. General Morrison, this is Captain Ben Murphy aboard the destroyer Retribution. We're detecting massive energy buildups from the lunar installations. The defense platforms are coming online. Morrison nodded slightly. Understood, Captain. Kethvar's tactical officer looked up from his station with terror in his eyes. Admiral, we're detecting weapon signatures from the system's moons. Multiple moons. It appears the humans have turned them into fortress worlds. That's not possible, Kethvar said. Our scouts surveyed this system. There were no major installations. Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see, Morrison said. Just like your intelligence networks told you what we wanted them to know, the Miam. Full scope of the trap was becoming clear. The humans had not just hidden their fleet. They had hidden entire military installations. They had let the aliens think they were attacking a minor outpost when they were actually assaulting the outer ring of a massive defense network. How long? General Vexthal asked, her voice barely a whisper. How long have you been planning this? Planning what? Morrison asked. We didn't plan for you to attack us. We planned for someone to attack us. It's what we do. It's what we've always done. Captain Murphy's voice came through again. General, we have multiple contacts powering up throughout the asteroid belt. Looks like the mining stations weren't really mining stations. Morrison's cold gray eyes never left the alien commanders. You studied our history before you attacked, didn't you? You knew we spent thousands of years fighting each other. Did you think we learned nothing from all that warfare? Kethvar had indeed studied human history. Wars that lasted decades, conflicts that consumed entire continents, technology that grew more deadly with each generation. But he had assumed that was primitive behavior, something the humans had outgrown when they reached the stars. You're still warriors, he said, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. No, Morrison said quietly. We're worse than warriors. Warriors fight for glory or conquest. We fight for our families, we fight for our homes, and we've had 10,000 years to get very, very good at it. The tactical displays were now showing over 1,000 human contacts. Ships were still appearing as hidden installations powered up and revealed themselves. What had seemed like a simple ambush of a minor human outpost had become a carefully orchestrated trap. You wanted to send a message to the galaxy, Morrison continued. You wanted everyone to see what happens when species challenge the established powers. You succeeded. But the message isn't the one you intended. Admiral Carter's voice joined the conversation. Every alien government in this sector is watching this battle. They're seeing what happens when someone kills human civilians. Commander Hughes added his own voice to the growing chorus. Your own command networks are broadcasting everything back to your homeworlds. They're watching their combined fleets get surrounded by the species they thought they could intimidate. Morrison leaned forward slightly in his command chair. You attacked our home. Now the whole galaxy gets to see what we do about that. The battle began without warning. One moment the human ships were floating silently in space, and the next moment, hell broke loose across the entire star system. Admiral Kethvar barely had time to order his ships to battle stations before every communication system on his flagship went dead. Emergency lights flickered as backup systems struggled to take over. All around the command center, alien officers stared at blank screens and silent control panels. What's happening? Kethvar roared at his communications officer. The Veltrans. Tentacles moved frantically over his controls, but nothing responded. Sir, all our networks are down. Communication between ships, tactical coordination, even basic navigation systems. Everything is being jammed or hacked. That's impossible, General Vexthal hissed. Our systems are hardened against electronic warfare. No one has technology advanced enough to penetrate Sarok and Hive security protocols simultaneously. But the evidence was all around them. Across the alien fleet, ships were going dark as their computer systems failed or turned against them. Some vessels began firing on their own allies as their targeting systems were corrupted. Others found their weapons pointing in random directions, completely out of their crew's control. Sir, the tactical officer called out, his voice high with panic. We're detecting human boarding pods, dozens of them. They're targeting our command ships. Through the few working displays, Kethvar could see small human craft racing through the battle zone. They moved with impossible precision, dodging defensive fire and slipping past shields that should have stopped them cold. The pods were tiny, compared to the massive alien warships, but they struck their targets with deadly accuracy. One of the pods slammed into the hull of the Sarok heavy cruiser Dominator. Within minutes, reports came flooding in over the emergency channels. Human soldiers had taken the bridge and were systematically capturing key systems throughout the ship. How are they doing this? Vexthal demanded. Our ships have thousands of crew members. These boarding parties can't have more than a few dozen humans each. Her question was answered when security footage from the Dominator appeared on one of their few working screens. The images showed human soldiers moving through the ship's corridors like they had been planning this assault for years. They knew exactly where to go and exactly what to do. The humans were not just fighting, they were hunting. They moved in small teams, using the ship's own layout against its defenders. When alien security forces tried to stop them, the humans used tactics that seemed impossible. They appeared from directions that should have been blocked, attacked from angles that shouldn't have existed. They know our ship designs, Kethvar whispered in horror. They know them better than we do. But it was worse than that. As more reports came in from across the fleet, a terrifying pattern emerged. The humans were not attacking randomly. They were specifically targeting command centers, communication hubs, and weapon control systems. Every move was calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimum effort. On the main display, Admiral Carter's face appeared again. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship showed no signs of stress or panic. The humans were fighting a battle, against overwhelming odds, but they acted like they were conducting a training exercise. Admiral Kethvar, Carter said calmly, you're seeing what we call combined arms warfare. Electronic disruption, boarding actions, and fleet coordination working together as a single weapon. This is impossible, Kethvar snarled. No species, can coordinate this many different types of attack simultaneously. We've been doing it for thousands of years, Carter replied. We just never had to do it in space before. As if to prove her point, the human fleet began moving in perfect synchronization. Ships that had been scattered across the system started, forming attack formations with mathematical precision. There was no visible communication between them, no apparent coordination, yet they moved like parts of a single organism. The destroyer Retribution, commanded by Captain Ben Murphy, led a charge directly through the center of the alien formation. The human ship was tiny compared to the massive Sorok battleships surrounding it, but it moved through their fire like it knew exactly where every shot would be aimed. Murphy's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional. General Morrison, we're seeing coordinated retreat movements in Sectors 7 and 12. Recommend we cut off their escape routes. Understood, Captain, Morrison replied. Colonel Drew Martinez, deploy your Marines to intercept. Already on it, General, came the response from Martinez. We're in position. The alien commanders watched in growing horror as the human plan unfolded. It was not just a battle. It was a carefully orchestrated symphony of destruction, with every human unit playing its part perfectly. Commander Katie Thompson's electronic warfare ships had crippled the alien communication networks in the opening minutes of the fight. Major Amy Nelson's Marines were systematically capturing enemy vessels from the inside. Captain Helen Brooks and Captain Paul Davis led fighter squadrons that seemed to dance between the alien weapons, never where the enemy expected them to be. Sir, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. We've lost contact with 60% of our fleet. The ships that are still responding report heavy casualties and system failures. General Vexthal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Her compound eyes reflected the flashing lights of ships dying across the battlefield. How are they doing this? We outnumber them 3-1. Numbers don't matter. Morrison's voice came over the speaker. His face appeared on their screen, again still showing the same calm expression he had worn throughout the battle. You're fighting the way you always fight. We're fighting the way we learned to fight. The human general gestured to something off-screen. Captain Chris Johnson, show them what we learned from our own wars. On the display, they could see human ships executing a maneuver that defied everything the aliens knew about space combat. The vessels moved in a coordinated pattern that seemed to fold in on itself, creating overlapping fields of fire that no enemy could escape. It was called the Johnston Spiral, named after an ancient human admiral who had used similar tactics in their primitive ocean wars. But adapted to three-dimensional space combat, it became something terrifying and beautiful. The Sorok battlecruiser Dominion, considered one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, found itself caught in the center of the spiral. Captain Steve Miller's task force closed in from all directions, their weapons coordinating to strike at the exact same moment. The alien ship, which had survived dozens of major battles, was reduced to expanding debris in 12 seconds. Impossible. Kethvar breathed. No, Morrison said quietly. Just human. The battle was not yet over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. The humans were not just winning. They were demonstrating something that would change the galaxy forever. They were showing that all the assumptions about human military capability had been catastrophically wrong. As more alien ships fell silent or surrendered, one fact became terrifyingly clear. The humans had not been lucky. They had not won through superior numbers or advanced technology. They had won because they understood warfare in ways that the galaxy's established powers could barely comprehend. They had turned fighting into an art form, and they had been practicing that art for 10,000 years. The silence that followed the end of combat was more terrifying than the battle itself. Admiral Kethvar sat in his command chair, staring at tactical displays that showed the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful combined fleet in galactic history. Over half of his ships were gone. The rest were disabled, captured, or drifting powerless in space. General Vexthal's mandibles clicked together nervously as she surveyed the damage reports. Her own Hive Collective forces had fared no better than the Sorok ships. The humans had torn through their formations like they were made of paper, instead of advanced alien technology. Sir, the communications officer whispered, his tentacles barely moving over the controls. We're receiving a transmission from General Morrison. Kethvar wanted to refuse the call, to maintain some dignity in defeat. But with most of his weapons offline and human ships surrounding his flagship, he had no choice. Put him through. Morrison appeared on the screen looking exactly the same as he had at the beginning of the battle. His uniform was not wrinkled. His gray hair was still perfectly in place. He showed no signs of the stress that should come from commanding a massive space battle. Admiral Kethvar, General Vexthal, Morrison said with a slight nod. I'm ordering a ceasefire. All human forces are to cease offensive operations immediately. The alien commanders stared at him in confusion. Ceasefire? The humans had won completely. Why would they stop now when they could finish destroying the alien fleet? I don't understand, Kethvar said. You have us at your mercy. Why not complete your victory? Morrison's cold gray eyes studied the reptilian admiral for a long moment. Because we're not monsters. But don't mistake mercy for weakness. General Vexthal leaned forward, her compound eyes reflecting the bridge lights. You could destroy us all. Take our ships, capture our crews, send a message to the entire galaxy. Why don't you? Because, Morrison said quietly, that's not who we are. As if summoned by his words, other human voices began joining the communication channel. Captain Nicole Ward's medical teams were already moving through the wreckage searching for survivors. Both human and alien wounded were being treated with equal care. This is Dr. Ward from the hospital ship Mercy, came a woman's voice. We're detecting life signs on the damaged Sorok cruiser Vengeance. Permission to begin rescue operations. Granted, Morrison replied immediately. Save everyone you can. Kethvar watched in amazement as human rescue ships moved through the debris field. They were not just looking for their own people. They were actively searching for alien survivors, using their own resources and risking their own crews to save the lives of enemies who had tried to kill them just hours before. Why? He asked. Why save us? We attacked your people, we killed your families. Morrison's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained hard. Because the enemy today might be an ally tomorrow. We learned that lesson the hard way, over thousands of years of our own wars. Colonel Tony Baker's voice came over the channel next. General Morrison, intelligence teams have finished downloading the alien database systems. We now have complete strategic information on coalition forces across 7 star systems. The words hit the alien commanders like physical blows. Complete strategic information meant the humans now knew everything. Troop positions, supply lines, defense plans, even personal communications between alien leaders. The entire military structure of 2 galactic powers had been laid bare. What will you do with that information? General Vexthal asked, though she dreaded the answer. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stone appeared on a side screen, her arms full of data tablets. General, we have detailed records of alien military capabilities, base locations, and fleet movements. This intelligence gives us a complete picture of coalition strength throughout the sector. Morrison nodded but kept his attention on the alien commanders. What we do with it depends on what you do next. He leaned forward slightly in his chair. I'm going to offer you a choice. You can return to your governments with a message from humanity. Or you can remain here as prisoners of war until this conflict is resolved. What message? Kethvar asked. The truth, Morrison said simply. That humanity is not the primitive, aggressive species your intelligence reports claimed we were. We're something much more dangerous than that. Captain Ben Murphy's destroyer moved alongside the alien flagship, its weapons still powered but not aimed directly at the larger ship. General Morrison, medical teams report 1,700 alien survivors. They're all receiving treatment. Good, Morrison replied. Make sure they get the same care our own wounded receive. General Vexthal watched human medics working frantically to save the life of a Hive collective warrior who had been trying to kill them just an hour earlier. The same humans who had systematically destroyed her fleet were now risking their lives to preserve what remained of it. I don't understand your species, she said finally. Morrison smiled for the first time, though it did not reach his cold eyes. That's the point. You thought you understood us well enough to attack our civilians. You were wrong. The human general stood up from his command chair and walked closer to the display screen. Let me explain what you're really dealing with. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to fight each other. We got very good at it. We learned how to kill, how to destroy, how to win at any cost. He paused, looking directly at both alien commanders. But we also learned something else. We learned that the best victory is the one that doesn't require total destruction. We learned that showing mercy to a defeated enemy can be more powerful than showing them death. Colonel Drew Martinez's voice joined the conversation. General, we have secure communication links established with the alien home governments. They're requesting immediate status reports from their fleets. Put me through to all of them, Morrison ordered. It's time they heard from us directly. Within minutes, the communication screen split into multiple sections. Alien leaders from across the galaxy appeared, their faces showing various mixtures of anger, fear, and confusion. The reptilian emperor of the Sarok, the insect queen of the Hive Collective, and representatives from a dozen other species all stared at the human general. I am General Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force, he said calmly. Your fleets attacked human civilians. Your commanders are now our prisoners, but they are being treated according to the laws of war. They will be returned to you unharmed, along with a message. The Sorok Emperor's yellow eyes blazed with fury. You dare threaten the established powers of the galaxy? No, Morrison replied. I'm explaining reality to you. You attacked our home. You killed our people. You learned. What happens when you do that? The question now is whether you want to learn anything else. The Queen of the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles together rapidly. What do you want from us? Morrison's answer was simple and direct. Leave our people alone. Let us live in peace. And remember that mercy offered once may not be offered again. The transmission ended, leaving the alien commanders alone with the wreckage of their fleets and a new understanding of the species they had tried to intimidate. Human mercy, they were learning, could be far more terrifying than human wrath. 3 weeks after the battle, emergency meetings were taking place on worlds across the galaxy. In the great crystal halls of the Sithari homeworld, blue-skinned leaders stared at intelligence reports that seemed impossible to believe. On the volcanic world of the Sarok Empire, reptilian generals studied tactical analyses that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. The reports were all saying the same thing. The humans had not gotten lucky. They had not won through accident or superior numbers. They had demonstrated military capabilities that made every other species in the galaxy look like children playing with toys. Emperor Vashkar of the Sorok Empire slammed his clawed fist on the metal table, leaving deep scratches in the surface. This cannot be accurate. No single species can possess this level of tactical sophistication. The data comes from our own ships, General Kreltar replied nervously. Admiral Kethvar's fleet transmitted everything in real time. We watched it happen. The Emperor's yellow eyes burned with frustrated rage. 800 ships, the combined might of 2 galactic powers, destroyed by a species we thought were primitive newcomers. Similar conversations were happening throughout the Hive Collective's territory. Queen Zixara studied holographic displays that showed the complete breakdown of their military operation. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The humans knew, she clicked to her advisors. They knew about our attack before we even launched it. They were ready for us. Her military commander, General Hiveth, shifted nervously on his 6 legs. Our analysis suggests they have been monitoring our communications for months, perhaps years. How is that possible? The Queen demanded. Our encryption systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. The answer came from an unexpected source. On Earth, President Diana Foster was preparing to address the Galactic Council. Her office in the rebuilt United Nations building overlooked the sprawling city of New Geneva, where humans and the few alien ambassadors worked together on trade, agreements, and diplomatic relations. Behind President Foster stood the military leaders who had orchestrated humanity's response to the alien attack. General Morrison was there, along with Fleet Admiral Carter, Commander Hughes, and dozens of others. They wore their uniforms without decoration or ceremony, looking more like engineers than warriors. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, President Foster began, her voice being transmitted across thousands of light years to alien leaders who were still trying to understand what had happened. 3 weeks ago, your combined fleets attacked human civilian installations, killing over 50,000 innocent people, including children. The president's words were calm and measured, but they carried the weight of a species that had just proven they could defend themselves against anyone. You did this because you believed humanity was weak. You thought we were newcomers who didn't understand galactic politics. You were wrong. On the screen visible to the alien leaders, tactical displays showed the true scope of human preparation. What the aliens had thought was a minor outpost was actually part of a defense network that spanned dozens of star systems. Every human colony, every trade route, every exploration vessel was connected to an integrated system designed to protect civilian populations. Fleet Admiral Victor Kane stepped forward to address the council. His scarred face showed the experience of someone who had spent years in deep space, watching and preparing. For the past 5 years, we have been conducting reconnaissance missions throughout this sector. We have observed your military exercises, studied your tactics, and prepared for the possibility that someone might attack our people. Commander Laura Price appeared next, her arms full of data tablets and intelligence reports. Our analysis teams predicted this attack with 73% accuracy. We knew which species were most likely to view human expansion as a threat. We prepared accordingly. The alien leaders listening to the transmission felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of their chambers. The humans had not just been exploring and trading. They had been studying their potential enemies with the same careful attention that a scientist might study laboratory specimens. General Morrison moved to the center of the transmission. His cold gray eyes looked directly at the alien leaders as if he could see them through the quantum relay. You wanted to know what kind of species we are. Now you know. We are the kind of species that prepares for war while hoping for peace. We are the kind of species that studies our neighbors not to conquer them, but to understand them. President Foster continued. We learned long ago that the best way to avoid conflict is to be so prepared for it that no one wants to test your resolve. Emperor Vashkar of the Saurok Empire found his voice. What do you want from us? What are your demands? Morrison answered with the same quiet intensity he had shown throughout the battle. We want to be left alone to live in peace. We want our trade routes protected and our colonies respected. We want the same thing every species wants, the right to exist without fear. And if we refuse? Queen Zixara asked, though she already knew the answer. Fleet Admiral Carter smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Then you'll discover what we're really capable of when we stop holding back. The transmission continued for another hour as human leaders explained the reality of their situation to the galaxy. They showed intelligence reports that detailed every major military installation in the sector. They displayed technological capabilities that made alien science look outdated. They revealed a level of strategic planning that spanned decades. But the most frightening revelation came at the end when General Morrison spoke directly to every alien leader watching. The attack on our outer stations was meant to be a message, he said. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens when newcomers challenge established powers. You succeeded in sending a message. But it wasn't the message you intended. He paused, letting his words sink in. Every species in this sector now knows what happens when someone attacks human civilians. They know that we have been watching, planning, and preparing for this day. They know that we are not the primitive, aggressive species your propaganda claimed we were. Morrison's final words would be remembered by alien leaders for generations to come. We are something much worse than aggressive primitives. We are a united species that has learned to channel 10,000 years of warfare into the protection of our own. We are humanity, and now you know what that means. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy forever changed. In the days that followed, alien governments quietly began revising their intelligence assessments of human capabilities. Trade agreements were renegotiated on more favorable terms. Disputed territories were suddenly less disputed, and in the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols. They were crewed by men and women whose quiet vigilance ensured that the galaxy would remember the lesson learned in that distant star system. No one would ever again mistake humanity's desire for peace as a sign of weakness. The age of galactic powers treating humans as junior partners was over. The age of mutual respect had begun,